It's the finals of Grand Prix Prague. In the Moscow shirt, representing Russia, Anatoly Chuhwichov. He's playing blue-black control. He's got many very, very powerful threats in terms of taking control of the game and winning it using planeswalkers, equipment. He's got it all. But what Marco Cammilluzzi has is one of the more aggressive red-green decks you can imagine, including a great sliver package. The players look ready to go. They've taken their mulligans. They're going to look at their opening hands. Let's see what we've got coming for us in the finals of Grand Prix Prague. Well, there's a forest.
That's a start.
You got to start somewhere.
Yep, and a second forest does mean that there's a potential for a turn 2 Colonial Tusker, but no turn 2 play from Marco Cammilluzzi.
And Anatoly Chuhwichov has to be happy here to have the first creature on the board. It's just the 1/3 Seacoast Drake, but really, the early game for him is all about damage limitation. It's more a matter of he doesn't want to get stuck against the really, really aggressive draw from the Italian, who, at least on the face of things, is stuck with a mono-green draw. He starts there with the Rampaging Baloth, the 4/4 for 4. He has a mount in his hand, though. This is just him disguising the power of the draw that he has. At the moment, 4/4 on the ground, 3 power in the air, the Warden of Ivos Isle joining the Seacoast Drake there. And then what do we have next?
Air Servant, thanks to the Warden, only 4 mana, but Marco Cammilluzzi not too unhappy there about his main deck Plummet.
This is the time for main deck Plummet. Last round, it looked like it was a little bit awkward sat there in his hand when there was just nothing flying to kill, but right now he's got ample targets. It's just a matter of whether or not once he's dealt with one, he's got enough in the tank to deal with everything else.
And there we see the Plummet onto the Air Servant. The Rumbling Baloth goes into the attack zone, takes down Anatoly Chuhwichov to 16.
And a Mana Whiff Sliver there to follow up. Now there's a nice little sliver package in Marco Cammilluzzi. A couple of Mana West Sliver, he's got a Predatory Sliver, and then at the other end of the curve, Megantic Sliver.
Yeah, and that one is so huge. Unfortunately, he does not have any Battle Sliver, which would have gotten them even bigger and bigger, but Megantic Sliver on this board already, pumping up the Mana Weft Sliver to a 4/4 would be very, very good already.
And is that Jace on turn 5, the earliest that Anatoly Chuhwichov could ever play Jace?
Yeah,
I believe so.
It is. Well, at least it's the earliest that he can play it. He could have had Elvish Mystic.
Sure.
And then turn 4, but in this match, in his deck, it is the fastest. But with the Rumbling Baloth, and we know that Marco also have Hunt a week. It might die already this turn. Well, it's not gonna die yet, but
it could easily die in one swing.
Yeah, it could easily die in one swing, or it could die the next turn. And then milling your opponent for 20 cards is fine. But if you have to throw 2 creatures under the Baloth to do so, that's not the best.
So I mean, basically at the moment, it's oh wow, the Megantic Sliver here really changing the combat, because all of a sudden that Mana Weft Sliver of 4/4, both of these creatures lethal in attacking Jace. Does Anatoly Chuhwichov really want to throw away his board to keep Jace alive now, knowing that he's going to be facing very similar attacks, if not worse, the next turn?
Yeah, and the problem is, if he throws away his 2 creatures now, next turn he will need to throw away 3 of them if he wants to survive the lethal attack, and that's not going to be easy. And even if Jace mills another 10 cards, there's still going to be enough for Marco in his deck to survive at least 2 or 3 turns.
So when we were talking about the power of being aggressive in this format, Cammilluzzi's deck absolutely epitomizing that. He's got the Megantic Sliver there. It's not just Mega, it's not just Gigantic, it's both. And it's making his Mana Weft Sliver big enough that it's a real threat to Jace here, and puts Anatoly Chuhwichov in a very, very difficult position.
Yeah, I don't think Anatoly wants to block here. Killing both of your guys, just to have that one more activation out of Jace of Memory, I think it's better to just let it go and try to draw some removal there for the Megantic Sliver, so things at least get better. But it seems like he wants to keep his Jace around. Chum there, double chum, but now he needs to find an answer to 3 of these creatures.
I mean, if he feels like he's going to have real trouble with dealing this board, I can see there being an argument to sort of say, well, at least this way around I get to mill an extra 10, get some more information. But we know that actually Anatoly Chuhwichov, he does have some reasonable removal in his deck. He can deal with that, that sliver if he needs to. I mean, if nothing else, he can sort of time ebb so he's not got quite as many threats coming at him for a while. I guess
Yeah, and he could time up the Magentic Sliver and then mill it with the Jace if he
Yeah.
wants to. It seems like he's not going for that plan. Maybe he just wants to get some extra information. He recognizes that he has no way of beating this draw from Marco Cammilluzzi and already thinking of game 2.
So a tough spot for Chuhwichov here, but so Cammilluzzi just sort of checking, what's going to be happening with it. Like, is it going to be gaining loyalty? I mean, is the right play for Chuhwichov here actually to say, I'm not going to be able to mill you, I might as well draw a card?
Yeah, it seems like he did draw one card there. He drew opportunity, but he's got no 6th land yet. And he really needs to find it. These are some huge creatures coming up from Marco. And it's basically what he's been doing all weekend. His black-red deck was full of big creatures in his second draft as well.
I mean, I guess that's the other way of looking at card advantage in this format, is about card quality, not in terms of efficiency for its mana cost, but just in absolute raw power of your cards. Marco Cammilluzzi's deck has had some cards with real raw power, and in all honesty, Anatoly Chuhwichov's deck is kind of similar. It has got card drawing, but it's also got Jace, it's got Haunted Plate Mail, it's got Lifebane Zombie, it's got a whole bunch of creatures that are just genuinely clear and present threats.
And it seems like he is going for the time app mill it with Jace trick, but he does not draw another land, so no blocker this turn for Anatoly, and his Jace will be dying now.
And he went for just the +1 mill there.
Yep.
He valued having the extra card more than he did milling Cammilluzzi for 10, because he kind of knew that he wasn't going to be able to completely get the full decking there. That was off the table fairly quickly once it became clear quite how big Cammilluzzi was going to be going.
And now Anatoly, he draws his 6th land. He can play opportunity, but that would mean he would take another 8 damage, already going down to 8. He won't have enough time there to resolve any of the cards he has drawn, so I don't think he can go for that plan.
Anatoly Chuhwichov thinking very hard here. This the finals of the entire GP. He's come this far. It seems foolish to rush into doing something rash, potentially jeopardize being able to walk home. Well, you can't walk home from here, but being able to take home that trophy. And there, the Lifebane Zombie. There is a target for it.
No, hunt the weekend
Oh,
of
it's
forest.
only the permanents, of
Yeah,
course.
he can only take a creature, so no target for Lifebane Zombie. And now Hunt the Weak can actually just fight with the Lifebane Zombie. Marco Cammilluzzi is still coming in for a bunch of damage there.
Anatoly Chuhwichov down to just 7 life now, I believe.
And there was the target that Lifebane Zombie was looking for. Another mana wave sliver for Marco Cammilluzzi. Now Anatoly at 7 life. He will need to find some permanents there.
We've already mentioned that Accursed Spirit, not the best blocker in the game.
Marco Cammilluzzi gets in there quickly.
Cammilluzzi, his turn's almost sort of pre-mapped out at this point. He knows that basically he wants to be living in the red zone, keeping Chuhwichov on a short enough clock that he can't leverage his big card advantage spells.
Now, that's a way of saying, okay, I've got you. I don't think you can win this game. Let's make 5 wolves.
Oh! And it seems like not so many wolf chants from the Italians in the crowd. But there we go. Marco Cammilluzzi locking up game 1 pretty fast. Can anyone stop this aggressive deck from the Italian?
If he's getting another draw like this one, it's going to be very hard for Marco Cammilluzzi. He does have some very powerful cards which we did not get to see. Anatoly Chuhwichov. He's got a Haunted Plate Mail, a Jace Memory. Well, we did get to see the Jace Memory Edda, but it was a little bit like just mill you for 10 in an attempt, but then the Magentic Sliver came down and just destroyed the whole mat for Anatoly. He has a Claustrophobia which could take care of a big creature. He has an Essence Scatter which could take care of another big creature, but he will need to find the right timing for everything to go wrong, to everything go right.
I mean, I think that what we're seeing here is something not entirely dissimilar to what we saw with Martin User trying to face down the aggressive deck, where User had the card drawing, he had an awful lot of things going for him, but he couldn't handle well enough all of the big threats that were coming through with the removal that he had. As much as the blue deck can draw a lot of cards, it needs to have a little bit of way to deal with the big threats. And Cammilluzzi's threats are all big enough that you can't just sort of, like, a sensory deprivation in this matchup often won't render a creature completely without ability to do things. Either it's a sliver, which means it's doing things to other creatures too, or it's just so big that it's making it smaller, but it's not making it useless.
Yeah, and that's a little bit the problem of the blue in this format. While it does have a lot of card draw and some counter spells, the creatures it has are not very big. Armored Cancrix, one of the bigger ones there is. There is a Colossal Whale, but that's already at a rare, so you won't see that too often. And all the other creatures are kind of too small to trade favorably. Water Servant, another one that's good enough. Wind Reader Sphinx, but that's a mythic, so there's not that many good blockers in blue.
I mean, realistically, blue is not the color of creatures. We would not normally expect blue to be able to do everything. It's just that it comes so close in this format that it becomes something that's a tantalizing dream that a lot of players are trying to live and not necessarily succeeding in. Now we see there the trophy sat within arm's reach of both of these players, but if anything, it's kind of sliding a little bit towards the side of Cammilluzzi at the moment. He's already got one game. He only needs to win just a single game more in order to be able to lift that, take it home to Italy as the Grand Prix Prague champion. Now, both players looking at their sideboards quite intently. Is there anything there that we can see that's really going to turn this matchup around?
Well, there is one card that could be very good for Anatoly, and that's a Tidebinder Mage. It could tap down one of the bigger creatures from Marco Cammilluzzi, so that could be a starter. Other from that, Duress, not really good. Negate, not very good either. And there's not much else, so I could see the Tidebinder Mage swing the game for Anatoly.
And I mean, Cammilluzzi already playing his Plummet main deck, something that he deemed important enough that he wanted to make sure that he always had it available. The Seismic Stomp might come out for him. There's enough flyers on Chuhwichov's side of the board that it's not particularly decisive. And in its place, maybe a Flesh Pulper Giant, perhaps that second Spore Mound, so he can sort of get more creatures on the board. Cammilluzzi, he's in a nice spot in as much as he has options.
Yep, he's got options, and he's already up a game, and his deck is looking very good. All of his creatures are just so great. We didn't even see one of his two Briarpack Alpha, and that card is probably the best card in his deck next to the Megantic Sliver.
I mean, the fact that he's got those slivers as well means that one of the classic ways that you can lose a game of Limited, not having your mana quite sort itself out, he's got that covered.
Yeah, and
he's running a full 17 lands. He's got the two Mana-Wef slivers on top of that, in very solid shape.
And his mana base is very good. 11 forests, just 6 mountains. He's only got 6 main deck red cards, so that means he could run only 6 mountains. And with 11 forests, Hall of the Night Pack, we've just seen it, was huge already.
I mean, Howl of the Night Pack almost felt like overkill. But, I mean, that's what Marco Cammilluzzi's deck does. Not only does it kill you, it just kills you a bit more to be sure.
Yep.
And so the player's shuffling up now. Cammilluzzi's sort of looking pretty chilled out in the area. He's been in this feature match area for, if we're honest, most of Sunday. Always somewhere near the top of the tables and always having a bit of a laugh and a joke and a smile. A lot of his opponents, there's been the little fist bump at the end rather than a regular handshake. He's having a whale of a time here and performing at the top level.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to be tired. He's been playing for 2 full days, but still he's enjoying himself, being very happy where he is, of course. Whereas Anatoly, he seems a little bit tired to me. He's like...
he looks a little stunned after that last game, if we're honest. And I can understand why. I mean, Jace Memory Adept is one of the cards in the format that gets listed in conversations of among the best cards in the format. He resolved it as early as he could, and it was just dealt with in a fairly matter-of-fact fashion. And even after that, even after he'd effectively virtually gained life because Cammilluzzi had to attack the Planeswalker for a while, he was still killed off very, very quickly. Yeah. And it looks like we're about to start game 2 here now. Passing decks across the other side, a little cursory shuffle, always polite to shuffle your opponent's deck, shows respect for the game and respect for your opponent. As much as I can see there being arguments of, oh, you know, I trust you, you trust me, let's just play. This is the way that the game is played. We want to make sure that, you know, even at sort of kitchen table levels, all the way up to the Pro Tour, that the game is played in sort of a nice, brisk fashion. And part of that is, I'll shuffle your deck, you shuffle mine, let's have a good game. We know that the way that this match is going to come out is all down to who draws best, who plays best, and that be that.
Yeah, and you want to have the fate in your own hands. If you're the one to shuffle your opponent's deck, then at least you can only blame yourself for not shuffling very well.
And here we see this sort of about ready to start here. Cammilluzzi just getting a last couple of riffles in there.
The rifle shuffle or the riffle shuffle?
There's two Fs. I'm going to go for riffle.
Rich Hagen.
I can work out a rifle shuffle for you for the next GP. I'll figure something out that will be a little bit more akin to a gun, but that was definitely a riffle shuffle. And Anatoly liking his starting hand. It looks like he's going to be on the play here. Basically, he doesn't want Cammilluzzi to get a fast start.
And it seems like Cammilluzzi did indeed sideboard his Flesh Pulper Giant once again. I'm sure LSV is liking this one. I saw a picture of his Moto match where he had 2 Flesh Pulper Giant in play.
And a Colonian Tusker on turn 2 for Cammilluzzi. As much as Chuhwichov may have wanted there not to be a fast start from his opponent, that's not what he's facing. That's about the best 2-drop that could be cast, but at least no third land.
Nope, no third land. He does have the Advocate of the Beast, so if he draws another land, it could get very big. But exactly the same draw for Anatoly as game 1. Turn 2, Seiko's Rake, turn 2, Warden, and then now Air Servant, only 4 mana, a 4/3 flyer, very big on turn 4.
And Cammilluzzi looking on going, I shuffled your deck and I've given you the exact same starting hand as before. I really hope there's not a Jace memory deck. Well, it's clearly not Jace the Mind Sculptor, but any Jace is not really what he's looking to see here.
Another card he's not looking to see, Mark of the Vampire. Is it going to bump up one of these flying creatures? It actually is putting it on the biggest creature a little bit greedy. If Marco has the Plummet again, he's losing his best creature and the Mark of the Vampire, but this way he does have a 6/5 lifelinker flying, which is just gonna take the game in 2 or 3 attacks.
That is in fact the game. We were speaking about one deck being the aggressive one with the fast starts, but it turns out that either of these players can win a very quick match. That one took substantially less time than the shuffling.
And the Flesh Pulper Giant definitely did not get enough time to get in there. He was about 4 lands short.
It's more than a Flesh Pulper Giant really deserves, let's face it.
Yeah.
Cammilluzzi stunned there, and all of a sudden a little bit more of a spring in the step of Anatoly Chuhwichov there. Exactly what he needed to bounce back from the start that Cammilluzzi managed last time. Both players looking to the crowd, their supporters on both sides there, hoping that their representative is going to walk away with the trophy. That trophy now hanging in the balance will be decided on this, the final game of the grand final of the final M14 Grand Prix.
Finals?
Yeah, finally, we've got there. It looks like we made it. Look how far we've come.
Just thought I'd pop into the conversation, boys. Sitting alongside me, I have Maria Artemanova, one of the leading Russian players, just watching this and wincing every time we make a mouthful of Anatoly. So go on, give us Anatoly's surname the way a Russian lady would pronounce it.
I would pronounce it Anatoly Chuhwichov.
Chuhwichov.
No, Chuhwichov.
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 There you go, Tim. Have a try at that.
Anatoly Chuhwichov.
Yeah.
You
Lovely.
win. Awesome.
Many apologies for that, Anatoly. Luckily, we figured it out just in time for the final game of the final match.
It seems like Anatoly Chuhwichov is taking a little bathroom break.
I mean, you can't even pronounce my name, Moraine. I think that's probably fair enough that you can't do that one. It's fair. I certainly can't spell yours.
No one can.
I did actually have to check with our newest coverage reporter, Ole Rade, how to pronounce his name, and I've come to the conclusion that if I want to pronounce it absolutely perfectly, I need a Swedish tongue, and that's just not what I have.
Ole Rade?
Possibly.
Yes.
It's pretty close. There's a little bit more rolling on the R though. You should be able to do it.
There we have head judge Carlos Ho just checking onto the match. What happened here? One of my finalists is gone. Well, he's taking a bathroom break. He can, right?
But it looks like this time probably helping Cammilluzzi get a little bit more centered. I mean, it's the sort of thing that I'm guessing that if Anatoly had chosen to take a bathroom break before that last game, all he would have been doing while he was thinking there would have been thinking about what the uphill battle that he had was. Now at least he can say, right, I just need to center. We've got one more game of Magic. One way or another, this one game of Magic is it. I just need to play one more great game, and I get to walk away with the trophy. Fantastic.
Yep. One game after at least 20 hours of Magic is going to decide who takes home the trophy. And you want to be in the best possible shape when you start that game.
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the things that Travis Wu credited with his and his brother's ability to make the top 8 of Grand Prix Oakland, was that they were almost treating this like a physical sport. So in addition to making sure they played great Magic, which clearly they did, they were saying, right, we're going to make sure we eat well, we're going to make sure we sleep well. Between rounds, we're not going to stand around at the venue and have long conversations and use a lot of mental energy on inconsequential things. We're going to have a little sit, you know, maybe have a banana, maybe head back to the hotel room, have a quick shower, make sure that every round they go in feeling fresh so that they've got all of the tools at their disposal to play the best possible Magic. And I guess that's part of what Anatoly is doing here. He's centering himself, you know, quick bathroom break, making sure that he's ready to go, doesn't want to have anything playing on his mind other than the best possible plays every single turn of this match.
Yep. Hopefully, very strong plays like last turn. Mark of the Vampire on Air Servant. That was a quick game and a 6-5 flying. There's only a 1 plummet in Marco Cammilluzzi's deck that can handle a 6-5 flying. And if he gets that draw again, it will be very hard for Marco Cammilluzzi to come back.
Moraine, I wanted to ask you, you're, of the three of us, someone who has actually sat across from someone in a final. Pretty much the first time I ever remember seeing you was Grand Prix, I guess, Torino, where you made the final against Olivier Rouel.
It was finals against Kenji Tsumura.
Ah, Kenji, okay. So what is it like being in a final? How able were you, personally, to make it not like any other match? Were you able to do that, or did it feel, I mean, here we've got the trophy sitting in the shot there, did it feel different to normal Magic?
It's definitely something you're thinking of. Like one more match and you're walking home with that trophy, it's hard not to think. And they are not helping you. They are putting the trophy just next to the table and you're just like, give me the trophy, please give me the trophy. But you just should play your best game, and just like you should play any game actually. So just try to think of what you should do.
Do you like the play, if you like, of Anatoly just getting out of the arena just for a couple of minutes there? Just in terms of a chance to reset and a chance to go, okay, I'm here now, I'm ready for one last game, lay it all out on the line.
Yeah, it's something that not only gets yourself concentrated maybe a little bit more, but it's also something that might let Marco think a little bit longer about that last game.
But it looks like we're about ready to go now, so both players looking at their starting hands, looks like they're both keeping. Marco Cammilluzzi on the play for the final game of the grand final of Grand Prix Prague. Flesh Bubble Giant again? Maybe? No?
Well, it's in Marco's hand.
And a Predatory Sliver to begin with. That a 2-2. A nice little start from them. And mono black start here from Anatoly, so not necessarily going to be able to have the exact same start that he had in the first two games. But as we can see, that had mixed results.
Yeah, but now an island from Anatoly does give him a third land, can play any 3-drop he wants to in his deck, could play Live Bane Zombie already, would be a very good aggressive play there from Anatoly already. But just an Undead Minotaur, good blocker for Predatory Sliver. Not such a good blocker for Canyon Minotaur though.
Could be some Minotaur and Minotaur violence here.
And I know which one is going to come up in that fight.
Wall of Frost. Now this, a very, very good card for Anatoly in this matchup. Blocks most things in Marco Cammilluzzi's deck pretty effectively. And Pitchburn Devils there from Cammilluzzi signals that he just wants to fill the board up and go around the sides of that wall, I guess.
And that wall of frost, as you said, is going to dictate the pace of this game. If Marco attacks with one of his dudes, he knows that it is not untapping the next turn. And Flesh Pulper Giant, while it likes his little small folks, it does not like a big, huge wall of frost.
So Marco does choose to attack here. He's going to be able to get some damage through, I would imagine. It's just a matter of one of his creatures is going to be on lockdown for a little bit.
Yeah, and it gives Anatoly also the option to double block one of the 3/3s. I'm not sure if he wants to go for that way, given that Marco has not played a single trick in this game, but maybe he just wants to bait out one of his tricks and go for it anyway.
Does Anatoly know about the Briar Pack Alphas? Did he see them in either game?
He hasn't seen any of them, so he does not know yet about them.
Because a Briar Pack Alpha here could make a double block a very risky proposition.
Yeah, Anatoly would lose both of his guys, Canyon Minotaur would get to stick around, and yet another 3/3 for Marco Cammilluzzi.
Though there is a potential Essence Scatter up from Anatoly.
Yeah, and we know he has one in his deck, so maybe that's why he did the block. Maybe he does know about the Briar Pack Alpha, and he was happy to sit behind his Essence Scatter.
And Manaweft Sliver, and then there is the Essence Scatter stopping a Giant Spider, that being the thing that can stop an aerial attack from Anatoly, which is coming in the very next turn. Both players getting a little bit of damage in, and then an Air Servant, potentially a big threat in the air.
Yeah, yet again for 4 mana thanks to the Warden. And there we have it. He doesn't hate small folks, he just likes the squishing sound they make. Flesh Pulper Giant, 4/4, kills off the Warden.
And you need to be able to lift your feet very high in the air to be able to stamp on a Warden of Evos Isle. I'm pretty sure those things mid-air just about the entire time. Doesn't matter, stamps on it, out with the Warden of Evos Isle. Air Servant now the lone creature in the air.
You sure this does not have reach? No, it doesn't. I'm coming in with the Air Servant.
One good kick is all it can do in the air. After that, it's ground-based. And the Death Touch Cockatrice, Death Gaze Cockatrice with Death Touch. A nice little addition here means that, again, it's another good blocker. And I guess in principle an attacker, though I would guess that Anatoly happy to use just the Air Servant in the red zone.
And Marco not hesitant. He's just getting in there. He could have lost his Manaweft Sliver. Well, he couldn't. Manaweft Sliver was a 2/2, so that's why he just attacked right away. And now yet another creature for Marco Cammilluzzi. It's basically what he got to do in this game. If he waits too long, then he's gonna lose to the more powerful cards from Anatoly. He knows there's a Jace Memory Adept in Anatoly's deck, so he's got to win as quick as possible.
And Spore Mound plus a land to make a Saproling, kind of exactly what he wants to be doing in the face of a big wall of frost. Get lots of creatures on the board. So now we see Anatoly starting to think a little bit more about his situation. The first few plays were almost sort of kind of scripted out for him, but now the board's getting a little bit bigger, and he's not really winning this race.
No, it's maybe the time to think about keeping that Air Servant at bay. Just there's 2/2/2s in play, so these can block. He can profitably block with the Air Servant, and it seems like Marco did not have a trick when the Canyon Minotaur was blocked, so it's not very likely that he has a trick now.
And we saw there a Quag Sickness in Anatoly's hand. Not quite sure how many swamps he's got available at the moment, but even -1/-1 relevant on this board. Patient play here from Anatoly, the Russian happy to figure it out. He gets in there with the Air Servant, follows it up with, there's that Quag Sickness. 2 swamps, just enough, get rid of the Predatory Sliver, make Manaweft Sliver a negligible threat. And now he's sort of kind of stable on the ground and able to keep things going in the air.
Yeah, and if things turn out to be a race, he's holding Car up, so he can deal the final 2 damage and just gain himself some more life with that. Also holding Haunted Plate Mail. If he can just draw 2 more swamps, he might be able to take away this game. Oh, well, at least Hall of the Night Pack. This time only 3 wolves for Marco Cammilluzzi. I've seen better Hall of the Night Pack from Marco.
Marco, yeah, he's a big fan of big plays, and that, by many other people's standards, a perfectly reasonable howl, but we've seen better from Marco. I mean, but with that many creatures on the board, again, he's able to keep the pressure up, and pressure is all about, what the red deck is all about.
Yeah, and a good thing to note here is that Marco Cammilluzzi did not play another land, so he's certainly not having another forest. But even a mountain, he probably would have played with the Spore Mount. So he is holding another spell. And if this spell is not powerful enough to kill Anatoly in this turn, he's taking at least 3 from the Accursed Spirit and maybe even 4 from the Air Servant next turn as well.
So Anatoly representing lethal here, but has to deal with the fact that there's a huge attack coming in from the other side too.
Yep, coming in for 6 puts down Anatoly at 7 life. Accursed Spirit will die now, but the Air Servant still potentially 4 damage, and he's still holding the Corrupt. Is Anatoly going to win this game? It seems Marco at 2. There he is, the Corrupt.
And there's the answer. We have another Russian Grand Prix winner. Look at that crowd.
Wow.
A big finish there.
It's Russian time. Wow, the crowd.
Look how excited he is there. That means so much both to him and all of the Russian contingent here. Congratulations, Anatoly Chuhwichov, Grand Prix Prague champion.